Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for the Gifford Fire Community Meeting. My name is Cecile Juliet. I am the Public Information Officer on the Gifford Fire. This evening, you are going to hear from members of the Unified Command Team and our cooperators. The Gifford Fire is currently 98,397 acres with 15% containment and 2,988 personnel who are assigned to this fire. We are live streaming this meeting on Los Padres National Forest Facebook page and the Fire YouTube channel. For those of you who are in this room, please use the index cards to write down your questions, and when you are done, raise your hands and an information officer will come along to collect it. Our goal is to make sure that those who are impacted by this fire are able to get their questions answered. For those of you who are watching online, please write your questions in the chat and we will answer them in the questions and answer portion of this meeting after the speaker presentation. Beginning our presentation tonight is the Deputy Chief of Santa Barbara County Fire, Chief Garrett Huff.
All right, welcome. Good evening, everyone. I kind of want to start by just giving you guys a background of how we got here. So this fire started on Friday, August 1st in the afternoon and was reported as four separate fires along the Highway 166 corridor. This area is multi-jurisdictional. We have federal, state, and our local county kind of resources that all kind of blend together right there, so we all send a response. It was very quickly figured out that the fire was going to exceed our initial response capabilities. We ordered more resources and then did a complexity analysis where we determined that we were going to need a complex incident management team to come in and help with the logistics and support with the size of the fire we were anticipating. Team 5 from the feds were ordered up along with CAL FIRE, and we went into unified command and with Santa Barbara County Fire also, and we've been in unified command since Sunday. I just want to do a quick shout or a quick introduction to the county folks that are here that are also going to speak. We have Travis Henderson here from the Santa Barbara County Sheriffs, Kelly Hubbard from the Office of Emergency Management, 4th District Supervisor Bob Nelson, and then somewhere hiding is Patrick Bide, our Division Chief and Deputy IC. Those are the county folks that are here that can help answer some questions at the end. I just wanted to make another note that we've done a significant amount of fuels work in the Tepesquei Canyon over the last couple of years. We've received many grants. In fact, we just received another one. I just got word for $2.9 million to continue those projects. So we're looking forward to that. And then I want to finish with an acknowledgement that this fire is growing and the wind is very squirrely out in the 166 corridor. It changes hour to hour, minute by minute. And 4 firefighters on August 15th, 1979 died as a result of the wind shifting out on a fire that was out in that same exact area. So I kind of want to acknowledge that and pay a little tribute to those firefighters. And then I want to give one last plug to the Ready, Set, Go program. So please take a pamphlet on the table there before you leave. And I'm going to kick it over to Spencer Andreas from the team's operations section team.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having us. I'm going to walk you guys around the fire on the map, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this mic. I'm sure a lot of you heard this morning we had to post a lot of additional evac warnings and orders, and so I'm just going to kind of start at that portion of the fire that gave us a lot of trouble it was about midnight. So we had a kind of a weather phenomenon about midnight, very typical. Wasn't be classified, but it was like a sundowner type weather event. So about midnight, we were not anticipating it. We experienced about 20 mile an hour sustained winds with gusts of 30 to 40 miles an hour for about an hour. So what that did is just south of Avanalis Road, it pushed the fire due west. So that was the causation for all those warnings and evacs at midnight of all times. And unbeknownst to us, was not in our weather predictions. So I'll start from there. We've been feverishly working on that piece all day. We've got a plan in place to start building some contingency line up the Avanalis Road and down back to the south. So the crews have been heavily engaged in that area. As we work down south from Alamo Creek, you'll see there's some bits of black. So the black line on our map coincides to containment. So as our containment rises, you'll see a lot more black on the map. And containment is, we are comfortable, that line's cold, we've checked it, we've mopped it up. And a lot of this actually on this west side, you will start to see black in the coming days. So, and that's a testament to all the great work those firefighters are doing out on the line. So as we go down all the way to the south towards Iron Ox, that's been actually black for a couple days, and we were able to get that quickly contained. And again, all that hard work those firefighters are doing. As we head to the west here towards Pine Mountain, that again, there's black in there, and then it's continuing to the east. And what they're doing is they're doing direct hand line, and it's a combination of dozers and hand crews, and they're right on the fire's edge. So those folks have been continuing. They're actually all the way into this little, what we call like a horseshoe, where they completed today with that direct fire line construction. So things are looking really good on that south end. In the wilderness here, the fire has actually kind of parked itself. I actually flew it this morning, and not a lot of smoke, no smoke actually whatsoever. And so things are actually looking good. And what we're doing is we're going to devise a plan with some hotshot crews and hand crews to start going in there and going direct with handline construction. Over here on the southeast portion, we've been, the first couple of days that was problematic for us. It kept spotting over our lines. We kept having to retract from our tactics, keep going down that ridge. I'm very happy to report they took this Eckhart Ridge, and they have been going direct with hand crews, and they are due to be complete with that line construction tomorrow. So that'll lock this whole section in, and then we have completed dozer line all the way up to the cabin, or excuse me, that's our point of reference, but all the way up to this Jack Spring area. So that has been really good to lock that piece in for that southeast progression. As we go up, we utilize some existing road systems. That's all holding really nicely. We did have the fire did slop over Branch Mountain a couple nights ago. Crews have been the last couple days going direct with dozers and hand crews, and that is all holding currently. So all good news up there on the north. All the way up to Los Palatos Road, everything's still holding. And so right now our big problem is this piece that pooched out over to the west last night. And I'd be happy to sit around and walk around the map with any folks afterwards. So thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Garrett Hazelton, our fire behavior analyst. Do you want to go off this? Okay.
All right, good evening, everybody. So the story of this fire actually started months ago. If you guys remember the winter rains. We had a bit of rain in the beginning, and then we had that lull, and we had those last couple of storms towards the end of the season before summer started. So what that did is it gave those plants a lot of water right at the peak of their growing season. So we had an abundantly high grass crop, more than normal if you guys are familiar with this area. So what my job is to look at history, fire, fuels, weather, and topography, and try to figure out what's going on with our fire. So we'll start down here at the big topic here. It's anytime I see wilderness on the map, it's wilderness for a reason. Lack of roads, difficult terrain, lack of access to it. So this piece right here where it jumped out and caused all the smoke and all the evacuations, that hasn't burned. It has not burned in recorded history. The next closest fire is from 1912, and it was unnamed, and the next one that we see on the record is from 1950. So we have a lot of fuel loading out there. A lot of access issues, so that contributes and makes sense when we have these wind problems. As we come around the north, it did make this push over, but the fuels there aren't as heavy as this old growth vegetation. So operations was able to go direct. But where, as operations spoke, the wind is dynamic in that corridor. If you've ever driven through there, it goes left, it goes right, it changes all the time. We're using all of our raw stations in that computer modeling, and we think we got it pretty fine-tuned. As we come over here, happy to report, using all our remote sensors, the IR, the heat that we see from space, is quickly diminishing. So that gives me a high confidence that things are looking good. They did really good work over here. As we come along this ridge here into this other southern wilderness part, the fuels haven't really grown back as much. We've had some drought years, and since the fires a couple years ago, 10, 15 years ago, it hasn't recovered as much as, say, the areas over here. So that's really advantageous for our folks. We still see a little bit of heat, but time, resources, and the commitment, we're able to get those troops up there, and I talk to those guys today. They're being successful, and they're doing good work. And we come around here in the Pine Canyon, it was aggressive, but that made sense, but it came down and fought fire on our terms. As we look out to where we're going, talk to the meteorologist today, we're in a typical summer pattern. We're gonna see these couple days where it gets a little bit cooler, and we're gonna see that strong onshore wind, and then we're gonna have these, what you could call like micro heat waves that we've just been seeing. And associated with that, we're gonna see different fire dynamics. The challenge right now is we have the winds, and it's like a rapid in boulders in here as it funnels and channels through all of these canyons. So I thank you for your time. I'll stay as long as I can or as you need afterwards. And I'd like to call up Lieutenant Travis Henderson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Travis Henderson. I'm a lieutenant for the Sheriff's Office. I am our agency's representative at this fire incident. Your Sheriff's Office has been involved in this incident since the very onset from the first report, and on behalf of Sheriff Brown and the rest of the Sheriff's family, I want to say thank you for your cooperation and your patience. I'm going to speak to our evacuation efforts, and I'm sure I will have several questions later on about our plans to potentially repopulate these areas and when that might occur, to include some of the questions you may have about Tepisque Road and the 166. But I will say at the onset of this, I'm sure many people have heard over the years good-natured ribbing that goes on between law enforcement and fire. And I will say, after being assigned to an incident like this, it is truly humbling to see how professional the greater fire family is when they come together and put together an effort this big. They are very impressive to watch, and their ability to marshal resources and how much they care about these communities. It is honestly something to be very impressed by, so I'm proud to be a part of it. Speaking of evacuations, since the onset of this event, the Sheriff's Office has been in charge of evacuations south of the 166, whereas there's also a lot of fire activity north of the 166 that falls into San Luis Obispo County. When we make these decisions about who is going to be placed on warning as opposed to evacuation orders, like I mentioned to our folks in Nukuyama last night, this is not an arbitrary decision. This is not a decision that's made in a vacuum where just a couple of us look at a map and decide. We make these decisions after consulting with the team from IMT, as well as County Fire and our Office of Emergency Management's built-out plan, which, if you haven't been to Ready SBC and seen the new system that we're using, which is called Genesis, to identify areas that need to be placed under warning or order, they're built out in zones. So if you go into our Genesis program, this map is a little bit different. You'll notice that geographic areas that may have some boundaries that could be topographical boundaries, river boundaries, road boundaries, delineate different zones. And those zones are what we look at when we decide who is going to be asked to leave their home. And we don't take that decision lightly. When we do make this decision, it is in cooperation with all of the other people that are involved in the incident management team. You've already heard from our fire behavior expert. There are weather experts that are involved in this decision, as well as people that can tell us their experience from fighting fires like this in the past, as well as what the potential forecast is of what the fire is going to do in the future. And that's an imprecise science, if you could call it science. It is very much a educated decision when we're making these orders. So the first orders that we have that affect this community the most is the Tepisque Road evacuation order, which is surrounded by some warning zones on Fox and Canyon. Also out in the Nukuyama, we have quite a bit of order area pushing out towards Cottonwood Canyon and Wazioa. and then the Los Padres National Forest folks make the decision as to whether or not the forest is going to be evacuated. So I can tell you that folks are wondering, when is this order going to be lifted? Am I going to be able to traverse back and forth between order areas and warning areas? Are there more warnings coming? I would say that the work that the firefighters have done here along the southwestern perimeter of the fire has really instilled us with some confidence that we've made the right decisions thus far, and we are constantly reevaluating whether or not we want to lift these orders and say that we believe it's safe for you to go back into your homes. But one of the phrases that we hear in the evacuation world is evacuation fatigue and order fatigue, which has sometimes led to disaster in the past, where if we don't want to ping pong folks to and from their houses, we want to ensure that when we say it's safe to go back, that it's safe to go back, and 16 hours later, 3 days later, we're not hitting you with another message saying you need to leave again. So these are all things that we're considering when we do decide to repopulate areas. And I will tell you that every single day we have a meeting to decide whether or not we're going to consider repopulating areas. And these are conversations that are starting to occur. There are no current plans to lift any orders or swap any orders for warnings. But we do evaluate it every single day. And afterwards, I'd be happy to take your questions about this process and specifically the areas you live in if you have any. But that's it for my portion. Now I'd like to turn the mic over to the Director of Santa Barbara County's Office of Emergency Management, Director Kelly Hubbard.
Good evening, everyone. I want to share some information about resources available to the community. So first of all, American Red Cross has been running a temporary evacuation point right across the street for the last couple of days, and they really haven't seen much foot traffic, so they were planning to close today. That does not mean that they are not still available for assistance if needed. So two things. One, they have some N95 masks. As you leave this evening, if you need some additional masks for the air quality, please feel free to pick some of those up from them. Additionally, I'm going to provide a phone number, and so if anyone needs that for any type of sheltering assistance, I can provide that. And I'll repeat it twice just in case. So that is 805-678-3073. Again, this is for American Red Cross if you need sheltering assistance. 805-678-3073. Additionally, I know Direct Relief is distributing masks throughout the community. I know they are distributing some in Santa Maria and Buellton. You can find that information at www.readysbc.org. I think they have been rotating sites, and I'm not sure they're staying the same. So I don't want to tell you exactly where, but you can go to that website if you need additional masks. Places to get information. So first and foremost, please make sure you're registered for emergency alerts with the county, and that's through readysbc.org. You can register for cell phone, text, phone call, landline, email. If you use a hearing device, it does have options for that on your registration. You can get information on readysbc.org in English and Spanish. We have AM 530. We now have a radio station in Mid and North County and New Cuyama Valley that is in English and Spanish, and we just provide pre-recorded messages that give you information about the evacuations and where resources are available. So sometimes I know in these areas we don't have great cell service, we don't have great communication infrastructure, and so if you can get on your car radio and go to AM 530, you should be able to get most of the most current information. Additionally, we have been trying to use the NOAA radios, if you're familiar with that. A lot of Californians aren't as familiar as like the Midwest, where you might have tornado country. But NOAA radios are the radios that will automatically trigger on with certain alerts. And so we're making sure that we're triggering those radios when we send out emergency alerts when it's really critical. It won't have all the information, but if we're sending a sudden evacuation notice, that's a good thing to have in your house, especially if you don't have great cell service at home. So that's just one more way to get information and emergency alerts. Our county call center is also activated through tomorrow evening or afternoon at 4 p.m. It'll be 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We aren't going to be having that call center over the weekend unless we see a lot of calls tomorrow, but we can always adjust. So tomorrow, the call center, 833-688-5551. And again, the county call center, 833-688-5551. And that's the information I have. I can help answer additional questions about emergency alerts, registrations, any of those questions after we are done here. And for now, I'll be turning it over to County Supervisor Bob Nelson. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you guys all coming out here and appreciate all the support that you've given me and the rest of the crew over the last couple of days here. When this first hit, this was a real concern for our area out here. You know, this is mostly in my district. If you live out here in Sisquoc or in Tepiscay, I'm your county supervisor. I represent all the way out to about Rockfront Ranch. And with this initial fire, we definitely saw a push towards Tepiscay that was a huge concern. And meeting after meeting that I went to with the incident management team, that has been their number one priority early on in this fire. And I think that making that the top priority is why you'll actually see that black line over there. The black line on this map is a really good sign for us out here, because really with the fire is now pushing further to the east and away from Tepiscay Canyon, which is really important to all of us. We have been the ones that have been most impacted. At this point early on in this fire, most of the evacuations by population have been in this room, has been the Tepiscay Canyon, the upper Tepiscay Canyon. And on Monday, we really thought that we might be looking at additional evacuations. But really, for the heroic efforts of many of the people in this room and the other, 2,900 people that are out there at fire camp, we were able to hold back the fire at Pine Canyon. They were able to hit a stop there, and that really was a turning point for our part of this fire, and is really going to make sure that, it's a little too soon to say, but that the likelihood for success and for repopulation and the protection of life and property for our area. So I'm really thankful for all the hard work that they put into it. In the meantime, I've been making communications either through Facebook has been predominantly that I've been getting out to the community. That's still a great way to get a hold of me. If any of you actually need to get a hold of me directly, most of you guys already have my cell phone number, but I'll go ahead and give it to you all because I work for you as my constituents, and my number is 805-287-0408. When you guys can't get a hold of somebody, all those numbers that you got from Kelly or or Red Cross, reach out to my office. I have a team that works for me, that also works for you, that we can make sure that you're in contact with the right people in the right places. We can work on your behalf. But I just want to make sure you guys all know that there's been a significant effort out there in the community among this incident command team to protect you, to make sure you guys have the resources you need. Many of you guys have taken advantage of the Ag Pass program over the last few days and got emergency Ag Passes through Ag Commissioner's office. I think that's one of the lessons that we're going to learn here in our community for the next fire, is getting ahead of that and making sure that many of you guys sign up for that program. We're going to try to make it easier. We're going to try to do a little bit of marketing out into these communities that may have not previously been aware of that program, but it's been a huge success that allow many of you guys to be able to go back into your properties in a safe way to access your animals and in your farms. So we're looking forward to that, more of that in the future. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and honor those orders where we're at. And if you need to reach out to resources like myself, we encourage you to. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the incident commander, Dustin Mueller from Incident Management Team 5.
All right, I'd like to have my unified partners up here with me as well. So hi again from last night out there in video land. I'm going to start off with some updated facts that just got released. We just updated them at the start of the meeting. So the fire grew up to approximately 99,000 acres, 99,232 acres today, and we remain at 15% contained. To date, we've spent $43 million. Firefighter personnel on the fire are 3,431. I'll note also that we have around 500 to 1,000 more inbound from all around California and the western United States. To include in those numbers also is 11 Type 1 helicopters, upwards of 8 large air tankers, 8 medium-sized helicopters, and around 70 crews. Engines are so high that I can't really count that high, so there's a lot there. But I would like to start off with some of the strategies and objectives when we got called to this incident on Friday. We were on call. We're an incident management team, and we respond from all over California, made up of many agencies. What you're seeing here is that come to true fruition in Unified Command. So in Unified Command, our partners are United States Forest Service, CAL FIRE, Santa Barbara County Fire, Santa Barbara County Sheriff. So within that's the command structure that we use to guide and assist and command all the agencies that come all over the United States to help us out here in the local community. So to reiterate, this is a full suppression fire with that strategy in mind, and it is aggressive action that's being taken. So there's a lot of risks taken by firefighters to help protect you guys in the community. So we are faced with extremely challenging conditions, especially in the last couple days. And those conditions are 100 degrees plus heat. You probably don't see that down here in the against the coastline, but it is up there. Low relative humidity, that's really hampering our suppression efforts. And then really the gusty winds and the sundowner winds. It's really like Operations Section Chief Andreas stated. So that's really challenging. Many agencies, like I said, are contributing to the success of this incident. There's a lot of good work going on out there, and you guys should be proud of them. Currently, we are the largest fire in California burning at 99,000 acres. I would suspect that we reach that 100,000 acres at some point tomorrow morning. They're continuing to fight night and day for you guys of the community and then the communities of the north and east. A couple things we're doing to mitigate some of the long travel times is to assist firefighters getting on the ground after rest is opening multiple camps. Right now, today we opened up Santa Margarita camp. So that's right now we have 1,000 firefighters up there assisting in the northern and eastern efforts. And we're also about 2,400 here in Santa Maria. So with those additional firefighters that we still have on order, we are getting our orders filled, so that's good news. There's not a lot of fires, but there's a couple. Currently, down in Ventura County, a new fire started, and we did have to send a couple of our crews and one strike team of engines, but that's all they've requested for help down there in Ventura. So we are sharing, but that is just because a lot of our focus effort is up there in the north and northwest, with not forgetting the rest of the fire. So one thing I also like to say to the people of communities is you all should be proud of the firefighters that come, that you guys pay for, and our volunteers out there in the western United States. They've come here to really support this incident and to protect the communities. On behalf of myself and the Unified Incident Commanders and my team, we are proud of them, and we're proud also for your support because you guys are really helpful for us too. So with that, we'll be available for questions afterwards. I'm going to turn it back over to the PIO, but thank you again.
That concludes the formal presentation portion of our meeting. We are now going to take the questions that you previously submitted on the index cards and online. We're going to begin with our fire behavior analyst.
All right. I got two questions, kind of the same thing. So any chance of it getting into Santa Maria? And is it likely to come to San Luis Obispo? So careful with always and never in fire behavior, but I can tell you why I think that's a very, very low probability. So one of the things, if you guys notice, it's much cooler down here. The extended forecast is calling for a deeper marine layer. With that deeper marine layer coming in every day, those plants are going to soak up that moisture and be resistant to ignition. So that's a good one. The other one that really stands out driving out through here is all the farm and ag land, right? Green plants, irrigated green plants, they really don't like to burn. And with all those roads and infrastructure, and with the forecast of that continued onshore wind, it's going to want to keep that fire up and away from those communities. So I have a high degree of confidence that Santa Maria and San Luis Obispo proper are going to be pretty much void of it. Now, as for the smoke impacts, that's a whole nother story, and we are monitoring that with our partners at the EPA. And as the fire billows with topography and fuels, you're going to continue to see some smoke in the air, and it's going to continue to drift, and you might still see some of that ash fall out. But as far as direct flames coming in those cities, I feel that's a very, very low probability. But thank you for the questions.
Our next speaker will be from Santa Barbara County Fire.
All right, I have two great questions. The first one relates to propane tanks, and on page 9 in our Ready, Set, Go, under the set area, it has a little checklist of the things you could do while you're getting ready to leave. And it does say to turn off your propane tank. So if you think about that, what it's doing is it's isolating the propane to the tank and not supplying your house with your appliances or whatever the propane runs. If you have a generator, however, and your generator runs on propane, then you have to make the decision if you're going to leave the propane on or not. Some things to consider if you want to leave your propane tank on because of like a generator or something that's essential to leave running, then just make sure you have really good clearance around the tank and that the propane line, whatever the pipe is that's feeding the generator or whatever, is metal or non-flammable, and then you should be good in theory. But we recommend that you close off propane tanks though, just to isolate it from becoming a problem in the house. So that's one question. The next question has to do with wind, and as I mentioned, that the wind is very squirrely in that corridor, and the 4 firefighters that died kind of right where in the middle if you were driving from New Cuyama to Santa Maria. So you have the coastal influence and the valley influence constantly battling there. So you'll see the wind going back and forth. Normally around noon the wind changes, and it's usually a constant flow. But sometimes the wind swirls there, and it's getting influenced by California Valley heat. It's getting influenced by the San Joaquin Valley heat, the coast. So it's always trying to balance itself. So that's the surface winds that you see on those apps. I think this question had to do with the arrows on the apps. The arrows on the apps are surface winds, and that's what really drives these types of fires. It's not the winds aloft. That's a whole nother thing. But wind-driven fires usually go one direction. It'll start in one place and just go whichever way the wind is blowing. You can see on this fire, it's been all over the place. So every time the wind changes, the fire changes its direction. So it's very much influenced by the wind, which is also influenced by that dry fuel or vegetation and the topography. So hopefully that answered those two questions about wind and propane. Okay, great. Thank you.
The next person who's going to be taking your questions is Lieutenant Henderson.
Hello again, folks. I have a couple questions here, some of which I expected. The first question is, will there be a time frame for the 166 to be open for people traveling to and from Cuyama? The answer is we do not have a specific estimate of when 166 will be open, but I can tell you that starting today specifically, we began having very specific conversations with Caltrans and our partners at the California Highway Patrol, as well as our incident management team about access to the 166. This is actually a two-part question. It's not as simple as asking when 166 is going to be open for traffic, because there's two things that affect it. Currently, the majority of the 166 corridor is under evacuation order, which means it's not supposed to be traversed by travelers, even those that are going to and from their homes. And the second part of that is a portion of the roadway has been deemed unsafe to travel by Caltrans because of damage that is a result of the fire, to include guardrails that have burned down or laying down and damaged roadway. So what I will say is, in the near future, and near future, I mean days as opposed to months, we will likely be considering repopulating some of the area off of the 166, which will then open it up to travel. However, that doesn't mean that the corridor between Santa Maria and New Cuyama will be open, that will take construction efforts by our partners at Caltrans, who estimate tomorrow to begin repair efforts along the 166. So it is a priority for those of us in the planning meetings that are considering the impact on the Cuyama Valley, and those of you that either work in the valley and commute from Santa Maria, or those of you that commute from the valley into Santa Maria for work or medical appointments and groceries. So yes, we are in talks every single day about that, and hopefully we'll have some more information in the relatively near future for everyone about that. There's a follow-on question to that asks whether or not Highway 101 will be affected. As you just heard from our fire behavior expert, of which I am not, there are quite a few buffer areas between the active fire area and the 101. And at no point during the meetings that we have been a part of so far have we talked about a imminent threat to the 101. But what I will say is that question can be a little deceiving. I assume they're referring to fire, but I will say the 101 is affected right now by the increase in large vehicle traffic traveling from the south end of Orchid to the fire area in 166. So we encourage all drivers on the 101 to use caution when driving past these on-ramps and off-ramps, because there is a huge influx, especially in the morning and evening, of these large trucks and heavy equipment traveling on the 101. So please use caution. And the last question, it seems to be someone expressing a little bit of frustration with the media and government in some of our messaging when it comes to not being specific when we refer to the area of Sisquoc as opposed to Santa Maria, which I understand could probably be frustrating when it comes to trying to figure out just whether or not this specific news blurb or government post refers to you folks here in Sisquoc and Gary and along Foxen. But what I will say is sometimes the bigger messaging refers to Santa Maria as the Santa Maria Valley because we're putting out large bits of news to a large community. But I can assure you that in the meetings when we're discussing the impact on the community, whether it be evacuation warnings or orders, that's where folks like myself and our partners from the local fire department are talking specifically about these communities, where we're talking about Tepisque, we're talking about Gary, we're talking about Orchid. We're talking about Wazioa and Cottonwood Canyon and New Cuyama. These are things that we know very intimately because we're from here. And we are expressing the different needs of those communities to our partners here at the Unified Command, just like our partners in San Luis Obispo are telling us, and we're learning about the needs of areas like Sway Creek and Wasna and California Valley in their area. That's why they're in the room providing that insight. So even though the messaging or maybe some of the media blurbs aren't specifically talking about the folks that live here in Sisquoc, I can assure you in those meetings, your local representatives are speaking for you and very much are aware of the impact that this event is having on your communities. And that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
The next person who's going to be answering your questions is Spencer Andreas, Operations Section Chief for California Interagency Management Team 5.
All right, my first question is please more information about the current surges towards San Luis Obispo and the evacs in that area. So as I mentioned from the beginning with my report, this morning, we had to initiate several evacuations and orders and warnings in that particular county. Again, we are being as proactive to you as the public as we can. Your safety is paramount. That's why we're here. And as much advance notice that we can give you, we owe that to you. We understand that there's aging population. It takes a little bit longer for you folks to get out. You may have large animals. Trying to herd 6 horses into a trailer takes a while, right? So as much advance notice that we can give you is extremely important for us. Can I say that there's not going to be any more evacuation warnings or more orders over there? No. Again, the fire is it's still in a very dynamic state currently, and again, we are doing everything in our power to get this thing contained and get you folks back to some normalcy. Next question. How do you feel about the San Luis Obispo Airport and the country club area? So that's a specific area. Took a look at it in the map, and I feel I'm not going to ever say never, because you never know with good old Mother Nature and her profound ways, but you're in a good spot, I would say. I have a very high probability that the fire will not get there, but again, things happen, just like it did at midnight tonight, or this morning, I should say. So never say never, but looking at that location and proximity of the fire and the work all the firefighters have been doing over the course of the last week, you're in a pretty good area at this point, and I would be happy to discuss further. Thank you.
The final person who's going to answer your questions tonight is Director Kelly Hubbard, Santa Barbara County Office of Emergency Management.
All right, I have a couple questions related to language of the alerts. And so I just wanted to make sure that Santa Barbara County does have a policy that all of our emergency alerts go out in English and Spanish. We are not the only agency alerting. So San Luis Obispo County is also alerting. And I do know they have informed me that they did send, according to them, that they sent out their alerts in English and Spanish. But if anyone received an alert that they did not receive in Spanish, please feel free to find me after, and I can help review that alert and see if there's something that we can do on our side to help correct that in the future. Additionally, I understand it's one we've been trying to work on, and I know that's not a great answer. There was a question about our Mixteco population and community, and we are trying to find, my office Emergency Management, we're trying to find good solutions that allow us to do 24/7, 365 days a year, Mixteco translation at any time of day, any time of night, to support our community with those types of translations. It's been a challenging road to navigate with government contracts and working with some providers of translation and emergency alerts. That being said, my COP and our other partners in our community who do speak Spanish and do speak Mixteco and the various dialects of Mixteco are very important to us in helping us to share that message with our community. And so when you do receive our alerts in English or Spanish, and you can help us translate that to the rest of the community, we very much appreciate that support while we work to find a solution on how we do our alerts. So I know it's not great, but forgive us as we work through that process. Another question was in relation to farm workers and ongoing air quality. And yes, air quality will continue to be a concern off and on throughout this fire, depending on weather conditions, really for the whole community. And so I highly recommend that you either look at the Air Pollution Control District website, or you can find that information on readysbc.org to see what the current air quality is. Additionally, for our outdoor workers, and this is not just the farming community, this is all of our outdoor workers, there are Cal OSHA regulations on outdoor workers and air quality that do get triggered under certain air conditions, and they will make sure that that is coordinated through the Agricultural Commissioner's Office, the local Farm Workers Bureau, and other outdoor working sectors. So that will continue to get communicated. There was a couple questions that, and earlier as well, that indicate that we might have some San Luis Obispo community members here as well. And so currently there is an overnight shelter site that is being run by San Luis Obispo County at Arroyo Grande High School. That site was chosen because it is a currently safe area to be in. And so it is safe to assume that that area currently is safe. It is important for that community and any of the other communities, the 5 cities, Napomo, any of those other communities, to stay highly aware, to monitor pieces of information from San Luis Obispo County, and to be registered for San Luis Obispo County alerts, because this is on the San Luis Obispo County side. But currently, that site is safe. That's why they have an overnight emergency evacuation shelter there, and they will continue to monitor and adjust if they need to. All of that answered. I'm going to repeat the Santa Barbara County Call Center phone number, and I'm also going to provide the San Luis Obispo phone number since there appears to maybe be some community members associated. So Santa Barbara County Call Center, again, is 833-688-5551. We will be open tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then if we still have significant calls, we will add additional hours. San Luis Obispo County Call Center. They are intending to be open through the weekend, 8 to 5. Their phone number is 805-543-2444. And I'll repeat that one again since I didn't share it earlier. This is again San Luis Obispo County Call Center, 805-543-2444. Thank you.
We have one more question during this portion of the presentation, and speaking will be Chief Gaines, one of the Unified Incident Commanders.
Good evening. The question I have is who's pays for damage to private property from fire personnel? So we do have damage assessment teams that are out there assessing properties where we know we may have caused some damage from either bulldozers or different fire equipment, or if we had to cut any fences or gates to get through into properties to do any direct protection in there. If you have a specific spot, if you're here tonight, please come see me afterward. I'd be happy to take your information down, and we will look into that. You'll file a comp claims piece, and CAL FIRE will look into repairing it or fixing it, but it needs to be validated. We need to ensure it was caused by damage from this fire. If you get back to your residence after you've been evacuated, there's different ways you can do it. You can get a hold of somebody down at the incident command post, relay that message to any firefighters that you may see out in the field. It'll all get brought back and it'll get reassessed. CAL FIRE's website, if you Google CAL FIRE and comp claims, you can file a process that way too as well if any damage is caused by fire personnel. We do not plan on leaving anything any damage that we cause, we will not just leave it for you to repair.
I'm just going to add to this. If you have damages to your business, your personal property, your agricultural property, not necessarily related to their fire suppression efforts, but to the fire itself, and it's in Santa Barbara County, we do have a damage reporting form on readysbc.org. Particularly, this is important for our farmers. This allows us to share this information with the Agricultural Commissioner's Office and helps us to get concepts like USDA declarations and resource support for our farming community. But so if you find damages to your personal property, business, or your farm, to your farming operations or ranching operations, again, not related to fire suppression efforts, you can go to that website, readysbc.org, and report those damages as well. Thank you.
We have gotten a few questions in regards to San Luis Obispo County. We would like to let you know that we will be having a meeting tomorrow night at Branch Elementary School in Arroyo Grande at 7 p.m. and we will be streaming that live if you'd like to watch it. Please follow our social media channels for that information. And of course, don't forget to turn your ringer back on. And we want to let you know we will be here after this meeting for you to come up and speak to us personally if you would like. Thank you for coming. That concludes the presentation of our meeting. Have a good night.